Harley Davidson designed the Sportster S before its engineers built it. Form before function. That's great if you want a good-looking motorcycle, but can the Sportster S work in the real world? Although the Sportster S is like no Sportster before it, there are many design cues which point to the history of the model. The shape of the tank, the fat tyres, the style of the seat, and of course the V-twin engine proudly on display are all characteristics of Sportsters throughout the decades. It's long, low and lean. Fat tyres and high pipes dominate the style, making the Sportster S look purposeful and aggressive. Harley Davidson described the bike as a performance cruiser. 120 horsepower isn't to be sneezed at, especially in a machine which weighs in at just 228 kilos. Very light for a Harley. It goes like stink, although in an era of hyper-nakeds producing 160 horsepower plus, it's certainly not going to scare KTM's Super Duke or Ducati Street Fighter pilots. What the Sportster S will do, however, is blow every other stock Harley into the weeds. And a lot of other bikes too, thanks to the Revolution Max motor. If you feel like you've seen this engine before, you have. It's also in the Pan America Adventure bike, although it's tuned differently for the Sportster S. I love the motor. It's got enough character to let you know you're riding a grunty twin, without the crazy front wheel shakes at idle, older Sportsters often displayed. There are even riding modes, with sport being the most fun. Road tones down the throttle response, rain is dull and boring, but that might be what you want when it's as slippery as hell. On the road, it handles much better than earlier Sportsters. There are thick USD forks controlling that fat front tyre and a linkage-equipped shower rear shock. It's just a shame in Harley's pursuit of style they only gave the bike 2 inches of rear wheel travel. The front has an almost acceptable 97mm, or nearly 4 inches. At least there's a hydraulic preload adjuster to set up the bike for your weight, but there's no doubt the lack of suspension travel is the biggest example of style beating out practicality and comfort. Despite this, the bike actually handles pretty well and didn't beat me up quite as much as I thought it might. And I was riding over roads which had been damaged by extreme amounts of rainfall in recent months. With the shock set up for my weight, it was working, doing its best to absorb the punishment no Harley Davidson designer thought would ever be thrown at it. On smooth roads, it's actually good fun. Around town, it's a weapon, although the bar end mirrors make it wide when you're trying to filter through traffic. It's actually a lot of fun, this bike. It's really quite easy to ride. It's got a nice low seat. The foot pegs are out in front, so it's a feet forward riding position with relatively low bars. So you can cruise down the freeway, but it's also not a bad position to attack a few corners as well. I'm thinking the Indian Scout and Triumph Bobber, the Sportster's most natural competitors, are still better when it comes to suspension performance, but that Harley engine will leave them in its dust. There's no doubt style and engine performance are the defining characteristics of the Sportster S. It's a great looking motorcycle and in the right conditions is a lot of fun to ride. But only you can decide if it's the machine for you.